Greetings, speculators. You might hear me often refer to royalties. A little natural resource company has royalties, or they're trying to create royalties or sell royalties. What are royalties in the natural resource exploration business? To me, royalties are contracts that oblige one side of the contract to deliver money over time based on production, usually production from a mineral project or an oil project. And lots of times the modern royalties are based on net smelter returns, or how much the company would theoretically get paid back after their minerals are mined and processed and concentrated to a sellable product. When that stuff's sold into the market, after a lot of those smelter costs, the company that has a royalty on the project gets some percentage, usually a small percentage, 1%, 2%, 3%, even 0.25% can be a spectacular number on a large project. I've often heard of old-timers in natural resource exploration business refer to pricing royalties with a rule of thumb. There's lots of problems with rules of thumb, but here's just one to use or keep in mind as a speculator, as another tool for your toolbox. A 1% net smelter royalty on a highly economic gold mining operation is equivalent to about 10% of the profits from that mining operation. So when your little company sells out and keeps 1% royalty on that project, you got to look at it in that way. If it's a good looking project, it should be an economic one, not a marginal one, but a good economic project. Keeping 10% for a little company can be a wild ride. These might be multi-billion-dollar projects. This might be some little penny stock, tens of millions of dollar company, or 50 million or 100 million, and keeping 10% of a multi-billion-dollar project can be a wild cash flow coming into these little companies over time. Now, I think these ideas were mostly created for prospectors by prospectors who fell in love with their projects and knew that someday this thing was going to produce some huge amount of metals worth lots of money. And it was kind of like their retirement policy. So the prospector looking for the metals would make these contracts. They'd be on one side saying, pay me some small percent, and the guy who buys the project, or the company who buys the project, would be on the other side promising to pay some little percent later on someday. And since then, they've morphed into a financial contract for our markets. Today, royalties are a tool that companies use to finance projects. They'll sell royalty on the project to get the money to work on the project, create the project, or even find the project in some cases. Other companies that are buying these royalties or future streams of income, or potentially current streams of income, are collecting them and pricing them in the marketplace at nice premiums to lots of other mining operations. People pay premiums for these royalties because they understand how sweet of a cash flow a royalty can be on a mining operation. It's sweet because you're first in line to get paid. You get paid before the tax man, before the employees, before the management, before the costs of getting these commodities out of the ground and to market. Being first one to get paid can be a spectacular thing in the natural resource sector, especially because the sector is so fraught with costs. The costs and the margins of the sector are microscopically tiny little margins in most of these mining operations. So when those costs often hop over what you can sell these things at, they go negative. As long as the project keeps producing, as a royalty holder, you keep getting paid. You don't have to worry about the profit margin on the project. And so people have learned that over time and have come to love the royalty position in natural resources. It's the sweetest spot to be. The problem with it is it's usually priced higher than other spots, and other people know it. So it's usually a destination. So creating and finding royalties and selling them to the people that love royalties, to me, seems like the best game in town around royalties. So hopefully you've learned something about royalties, And if you have more questions, more input, more ideas around royalties, please hit up the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for listening.